I don't normally make videos about gaming devices. Quite frankly, I find the whole affair rather pedestrian, but I make the exception for the PlayStation Portal because I find this device rather interesting and confusing, and I'll be honest, it's downright peculiar because this really isn't running a PlayStation game at all. It's streaming them from a PlayStation 5, and quite frankly, I've seen a lot of takes on this system, and I think most of them are wrong. So I wanted to throw my 2 cents into the ring, tell you if the PlayStation Portal is actually worth it, and, it might be for you, but it's definitely not a device for everyone. Especially not the usual rabble I see around here. And I don't think those are men of quality that could really withstand the caliber of the Portal. I don't know why I did that voice, but I think it added je ne sais quoi.
So listen, when you first look at this thing, you're going, what the hell? What the heck is this thing? Did Sony just glue a PlayStation 5 controller onto an Android tablet screen? And yeah, they kind of did. I mean, you look at the front of this thing and it looks weird. Then you gaze at the back and it's literally like staring at a freakishly long cat standing on its hind legs. It just looks bizarre. And it really is unlike any dedicated portable gaming device that I have ever used. And don't let my youthful demeanor fool you. I've been around for the greats, like the PSP, the PS Vita. Vita means life. And this thing is not a successor to those in the least because this thing actually has no gaming hardware in it. I mean, yes, there's obviously some hardware in it to run the display, and it has this very, and I mean very limited user interface where you can get things like software updates for it, change the Wi-Fi networks, and a few other settings. I mean, I think it's cute that this thing has an airplane mode because there's no way you're going to be able to take this thing on an airplane and play with airplane Wi-Fi. Like, that is just not happening. But those are the only things that run natively on the PlayStation Portal, so if you don't have an internet connection, the most fun you're going to have with this thing is changing your display brightness. If you want to play any games, you have to stream them over the internet on an existing PlayStation 5 that you already own. And maybe you're even wondering, how is that even possible? How can you take a game from the PlayStation 5 and stream it over the internet so you can play it on the PlayStation Portal? Well, actually, that technology has already existed for a pretty long time. You've been able to use a feature called Remote Play on systems as old as the PS3 and the PlayStation Portable. And if you own a smartphone, you can use the PlayStation app to remote play to there, or an iPad, or your computer. Yeah, this technology to stream PS5 games or even streaming services that don't even require a console are pretty ubiquitous at this point. And the PlayStation Portal works exactly the same way, which means that it has all the same pros and cons of these internet gaming services. Basically, if you have a good internet connection, the experience is pretty solid. I was able to play through Spider-Man and Final Fantasy 16, running through my PlayStation 5, streaming to the PlayStation Portable, and as long as I was on a solid internet connection, it really felt like the PlayStation Portal was a PlayStation 5 in my hands. And I was completely fooled into thinking that this game was just running on the Portal because the latency between my button presses were that low. The stream connection was good enough that I didn't notice any heavy artifacting, and the frame rate was stable with a 1080p resolution on an 8-inch display. It is the highest fidelity experience you're going to get on a mobile gaming console. There's nothing other devices like the Nintendo Switch or even the more powerful Stream Deck can do to match the raw horsepower that your PlayStation 5 is capable of. So when everything works, it is likely that the PlayStation Portal is going to look better than those systems, even though the games are running natively on it. However, unlike other portable systems, the PlayStation Portal is entirely reliant on that internet connection. So there's a lot of variables that could turn that experience sour. I tested the Portal in a few different areas, and honestly, I had mixed results. At home, connecting was pretty much always rock solid. So if you want to lounge on the couch or the bed or take a toilet break, well, then you're probably going to be okay, especially if your PS5 is hardwired to an Ethernet connection. You're going to have a very smooth experience. Then I took this thing to a cafe and connected to Wi-Fi there, and fortunately the connection was fast. And again, playing through Spider-Man was pretty smooth. However, this time I did notice a few hiccups here and there compared to when playing at home, and there were some frame drops and some occasional stream artifacting. Again, none of this was like unplayable, but it definitely broke the illusion that you were playing this game natively, whereas at home it was felt like I was just playing it natively. And it's not always about having a Wi-Fi connection. Honestly, the PlayStation Portal can be pretty portable if you use something like a 5G cellular hotspot. That's what I'm doing right now to my iPhone. I'm running this on a 5G connection, and honestly, it's working a lot better than I even expected. The latency is pretty low still, and the image quality coming from the PlayStation 5 all the way through the 5G hotspot is working well. So yes, while you may look at this and go, okay, you need to constantly be tethered to Wi-Fi, well, that's not necessarily true. You could be out and about and still be able to connect to the PlayStation Portal, still get some gaming in. But again, there's a lot of variables here. If your 5G connection is spotty, or if you're just, your hotspot connection is spotty, well, it's not going to lead to the best use case. I played with spotty connections, and not only did the quality look bad, there was a ton of latency, and also sometimes you just experience dropouts where the PlayStation 5 wouldn't even connect to the system. So there are variables to it, but in an ideal circumstance, yeah, you could definitely play this without a Wi-Fi connection. You just need a cellular connection. It would be kind of cool if Sony built one into the PlayStation Portal. I think that would have been a little forward thinking, but it probably would have added to the cost. This is all fancy words to say that yes, your mileage may vary, and there's a lot of variables in how your home network is configured or how other networks that you are using are configured. Just because you have the ability to connect to the internet somewhere doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get a smooth experience out of the Portal. And while I had a great time playing through single-player RPGs and action games that don't necessarily require pinpoint quick responses, the PlayStation Portal isn't going to be great for every type of game. For example, I was playing through Resident Evil 4 Remake on the Portal, and while this is still something that I think is playable, I did actually notice the latency here compared to playing something like Spider-Man. When I was aiming in Resident Evil 4 to kind of get to the weak points of the various monsters, well, it was a little hard to kind of hit them, so it definitely made playing the game harder. And I imagine for like something like a first-person shooter like Call of Duty, it would be even more frustrating to play. And forget about playing online games that require precise and fast input. I think the latency that is introduced from streaming the game over to the PlayStation Portal, to be kind, would make it a very frustrating experience. But none of this is new. If you've ever streamed your PS5 to your computer or your phone, or again, if you've ever used any of these various cloud game streaming services available today, then you know what type of experience to expect here. And while it's very easy to look at that technical fact and dismiss the PlayStation Portal as a needless $200 device with no reason to exist, I think that's where you'd be wrong. And I get it, because before I started using this device, I had the same thought. I have tried game streaming multiple times, and I have always walked away unimpressed with the experience. But this is the first time that I have walked away kind of impressed with what the PlayStation Portal offers. And that all has to do with two very important, but also very simple reasons that set this system apart from everything else. The first one is the controller, because this is hands down the most comfortable portable gaming system that I have ever used. And that makes sense. If you look at other portable gaming systems, their controller method is usually compromised in some way to make the devices more portable. But Sony basically said, nah, you know what? This thing doesn't have to be portable. Make it bigger. Make it awkward to put in your book bag. Glue two ends of the PlayStation 5 controller to it, and who cares how it looks? Like, that is literally the philosophy of the system. And while I established that it does look weird and it's not portable friendly, like seriously, Sony, you should have included a portable case with this, because every time I throw it into my bag, I'm worried like the analog sticks are going to snap off. But despite that, it is a dream to play on, because it's just a PS5 controller. So not only is it very ergonomic and comfortable to play with for hours, but every button press feels exactly the same. The triggers feel exactly the same. The analog sticks move and feel the same way. And because it's a physical hardwired input into the Portal, it actually helps with the game streaming aspect of it. Because if you were, let's say, using a game streaming service and then using like a PS5 controller over Bluetooth, that would even introduce more latency to the equation, which could hamper your experience. The second simple feature that makes the Portal even better is its big 8-inch display. For me, it's always awkward to play games on the Steam Deck, because I feel like those games were kind of designed to be played on a much bigger screen. And while a 1-inch screen difference doesn't sound like a lot, it really does help make playing console games a lot easier, especially because of the higher resolution 1080p display, whereas other portables like the Steam Deck or the Switch have to run closer to a 720p resolution, mainly to save on hardware processing power. But the Portal doesn't have that issue because it's not running the games natively on the device. That also helps with battery life. Something like like the Steam Deck, if you're really maxing it out, doesn't have that much battery life. But the PlayStation Portal, Sony says, can get around 8 hours of battery life. I feel like during my play sessions, it's probably closer to like 6 hours. But yeah, you get the benefits of longer battery life because, again, nothing's physically running on this. There's no audible fan that at least I can hear, and this thing doesn't get hot or warm or anything like that. And yeah, as skeptical as I was when I ordered this device, I am actually finding myself using it, and more importantly, I'm finding myself enjoying it quite a bit. But let me be clear, this is not a device for everyone. First of all, let's acknowledge that there were a lot of misses with this product. I think one of the biggest oversights is the inability to stream games without owning a PlayStation 5. For example, Sony has a PlayStation Plus premium subscription that can already stream PS5 games. Because this thing is basically just a shell to stream games, it would have been nice to at least see the option to stream games without using or without needing to own a PlayStation 5. Secondly, I feel like there's some technology misses here that would have made the experience even better. Like, there's no option for a cellular modem connection, and while Wi-Fi 6E is all the rage right now with faster data speeds, longer range, and get this, lower latency, you think Sony would have wanted to include that in the Portal to provide the best experience possible, but sadly, it's not here. And then there's other weird things like no Bluetooth headphone support, which I guess maybe might have been messy with the latency already introduced by game streaming. But hey, if you want to use wireless earbuds or headphones with this, well, then you need to buy one of Sony's new PlayStation Link-capable headphones, which I believe aren't even available yet. So you'll have to stick, at least for now, to using good old wired headphones, or actually just use the inbuilt speakers, which normally might be a problem when you're playing portably, but probably not for the PlayStation Portal. Because the chances of you playing the PlayStation Portal in a really public setting is probably pretty slim. Like, there's no way you're taking this thing on an airplane with how bad Wi-Fi connections are on an airplane. And even like on a morning commute on your train ride, there's just no way that this is going to be a reliable connection, especially as you're going underground and losing internet connection, right? And let's be honest, that's where a lot of people are playing these games on their morning commute. So it really is a shame, because if this was actually somehow natively running PlayStation 5 games, and I get it, that's not a possibility right now, especially with a form factor like this, right? Like, it's way too small. There's not going to be enough horsepower in something like this to natively run PlayStation 5 games, at least well. But if it was capable of that, it would be one of the best portable gaming systems out there, because it is just so comfortable to control. The LCD display on it looks so good that, yeah, if I could take this with me on the train or on a plane, I absolutely would. Despite all this, I still have to say that when it works, it is an enjoyable experience, and it's good enough that I plan to keep using it to play games when my TV is occupied, or when I'm at the studio, or at a hotel with decent enough Wi-Fi. There's a lot of scenarios here where this still works, and it still makes the PlayStation Portable a viable, almost viable, portable gaming experience. But make no mistake, this device isn't for everyone. And the selling proposition and value of it, quite frankly, it isn't the best. But despite everything going against it, the PlayStation Portal is still worth it if you are aware of its limitations and you want the best remote play experience for games on your PlayStation 5. All right, I really hope this video helped you out in deciding if you want to buy a PlayStation Portal. Please let me know in the comments below. How do you view this device after this video? Do you plan on picking one up, or is it still not for you? If you like this video, please give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel, I know usually we don't do gaming content on this channel, so maybe you don't want to subscribe, and I totally get that. But hey, if you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and maybe I'll catch you in the next one.